Hello, hello. Welcome to the Wellness on Purpose podcast, where our intention is to provide you with impactful, educational, and realistic information to help you progress on your journey to live wellness on purpose now and for future generations. This podcast shares insights to current health trends with industry and brand leaders in the health and wellness world. This podcast is brought to you by Joanne's Place Health Foods from Peterborough and Lindsay, Ontario. My name is Marissa Laughlin. I'm a holistic nutritionist and functional lab practitioner. I've been working alongside Joanne's Place for the last 8 years, and I'm so excited to continue to be your host for this podcast. This year on the podcast, we have some incredible guests lined up. We'll be talking about cognitive health, digestive health, mitochondrial and energy support, sun-safe skincare, how to prevent BV, fertility, IBD, iron deficiencies, hormones, and so much more. If you want to be the first to know when a new episode is dropped, be sure to go over to your preferred platform, follow our page, and then also go over and find us on social media. We're going to be releasing information there as soon as a new episode drops. Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Wellness on Purpose podcast. Real talk. I am just going to check in with you right now and also low-key myself. How are you feeling right now? And I'm going to be honest with you because right now my current state of being is a complete roller coaster. I have no shame in admitting that, but I am feeling so sluggish and fatigued, and I'm just so tired of the weather changing every other day. But in relation to the fatigue, I'm going to come back to that because that is what I'm hearing a lot of, not just from myself complaining, not from my significant other and my office employees. I'm also talking about you guys. A lot of you are feeling the fatigue. And that's what we're going to be talking about in today's episode. I've actually asked Dr. Kate from Natural Factors to come onto the podcast today to talk about mitochondrial function and how mitochondrial function could be impacting our energy levels. This is a big topic. It's kind of a new topic, I would say, in the health and wellness industry. It's getting its spotlight for sure. And if you're thinking mitochondrial, you could be ringing this little alarm from like high school biology, and you're correct. So we're going to be talking all about mitochondrial function, how this has an impact on our overall energy levels, how we can better support our mitochondrial function for optimal health and wellness, and longevity. So without giving you all the details, let's jump into today's episode and welcome Dr. Kate onto the podcast. Hello, Dr. Kate. Welcome to the Wellness on Purpose podcast. How are you doing today?
Hi, fine, thanks. Great to be on the show.
Yes, great. Thanks so much for joining us. And at the beginning of this episode, I took a moment to just do a little check-in with myself, and I encourage my listeners to do this as well. I mentioned that I have been feeling, a little bit low and through kind of like this roller coaster of up and down during the weather changes. I don't know about you, but I'm just like super excited for sunshine and spring and summer. And I just would love to know how you're feeling. Like, does the cold and snow impact you at all? Are you a winter person, or you just love all seasons?
Well, I honestly can't really say I'm a winter person, despite having been born and raised in Montreal, which is a very wintry place. But I definitely am making an effort to embrace the winter, but it's been tough lately, right? Because it's sort of like, it's cold, but maybe not enough snow to do a winter activity, and in between. And yeah, everybody, talks about the winter blahs. This time of year, it's gray, the days are getting longer. Yeah, but I do try my best to embrace the chilly weather when I can.
Thanks for sharing that with us. Now, I would like for you to share with our listeners just a little bit more about yourself, who you are, and also what you do with Natural Factors.
Well, I am a licensed naturopathic doctor. I'm a graduate and former faculty member of the Canadian College of Naturopathic Medicine, and I am an author. I'm the author of the book Vitamin K2 and the Calcium Paradox: How a Little Known Vitamin Could Save Your Life. I'm also an educator with Natural Factors, which is in part what brings me here today. So I spend a lot of time, researching health topics, digging into the science to try to share news you can use, bring what's buried in the papers and literature to the forefront so people can take advantage of that to take steps to improve their own health through lifestyle as well as nutrition and, nutritional supplements, how people can take advantage of, for example, targeted nutrients to help improve their overall well-being.
Amazing. And I know I've seen you on a couple different TV segments as well. So you've been busy sharing your wealth of information with our community, and that's amazing. We're really grateful for that. So today in particular, I want to talk to you about mitochondrial health. So let's just start with the basics of mitochondrial health, because I don't think that a lot of people know what this means unless you're thinking all the way back to like biology in like grade 9, grade 8, that we might not understand this as well as we should. So what is mitochondrial health, and why is it getting a spotlight in the wellness industry right now?
There's finally a greater awareness, appreciation, in part due to more research around this topic. So our mitochondria are basically our cellular energy producers. Obviously, we need energy to be alive, to think, breathe, digest, everything, move, talk. And every cell in our body needs energy. And so almost every cell in our body has energy producers. You can think of them as batteries, power plants, engines, and these are the mitochondria. So we have 10 quadrillion mitochondria in our body. It's a mind-boggling number. An average cell will have a couple thousand mitochondria, but a very energetic or metabolically active cell. So think about a heart muscle cell that's always beating, or a brain cell that's always thinking. Even if you don't think it is, it's always working. Those cells can have 100,000 mitochondria in a single cell. So these really are very important. And they ultimately will take the energy provided to us by our food and transform that into cellular energy, or ATP. And so you can imagine that if they're not working properly, that can really impact our health in a lot of ways. And there's a whole range of concerns when we talk about mitochondrial health. Are they working optimally, for example? And that is, mitochondria are kind of a big deal.
Yeah, for sure. And when you say in terms of the mitochondrial not really functioning optimally, how would you know if that was the case for someone?
So first of all, we know that mitochondria tend to decline in quantity and quality with age. So in some ways, you can just assume, especially past middle age, your mitochondria are not working as well as they once did, because we know that is common. Not to say there's nothing we can do about that, but that is a trend that happens. When we talk about mitochondrial quality or efficiency, again, using the engine analogy, a well-tuned engine produces lots of power with very little exhaust. And an older an engine that's not working well is producing less power and more exhaust. So similarly with the mitochondria, if they're not working well, that means they're producing less energy, less ATP, and more free radicals. That's their exhaust. And so how would you know? Well, other than just being, say, middle-aged on, where you can pretty much assume they're not working as well as they once did, lowered energy, that's definitely a sign. So literally the energy we feel can be a reflection of the cellular energy that's being produced or not by our mitochondria. They can also, when they're not working efficiently, they're producing lots of free radicals, lead to inflammation. So if you have any kind of inflammatory conditions happening in the body, then chances are mitochondrial efficiency is affecting that, or it's a factor at play. And actually, experts suggest that a lack of mitochondrial efficiency, or the mitochondria not working as well as they should, is ultimately an underlying factor in any chronic illness. So you can just kind of assume that that's at play.
Okay. Now let's talk about like worst case scenario here. So say your mitochondrial is really not functioning, like basically lost all function. What would that mean for someone? Would that be like a chronic illness? Could that potentially mean like death if we're talking about worst case scenario, cancer? What would that look like? Or how would someone feel if they'd lost all function of the mitochondria?
Well, if they've truly lost all function of their mitochondria, then yes, that would mean death. I mean, we talk about, we know obviously oxygen is important to life, to breathing. If you don't breathe, if you're not taking in oxygen for even a few minutes, that can seriously affect your health, well-being, and then after a few more minutes, you will die. And that is because our mitochondria need oxygen. 90% of the oxygen we take in goes straight to the mitochondria for them to use. If they're starved of oxygen, even for a few minutes, they'll stop working and then we stop working. And so at the most extreme end, yes, that it leads to death. There are, by the way, also inherited or genetic mitochondrial diseases and illnesses. They typically require their own types of interventions and treatments. What we're talking about here today it only applies in part to those conditions. But certainly if mitochondria are working suboptimally, then yes, that is contributing to, underlying, or exacerbating any chronic illness.
Now, aside from looking at someone's symptoms, like you said, low energy, inflammation, things like that, is there a way in which somebody could test their mitochondrial health, or is it more something that would happen over, doctors realizing or naturopaths realizing that the energy and those symptoms start to become more prevalent in someone's day-to-day life?
It is normally looked at from a clinical perspective, like you said, based on signs and symptoms. There are some tests, certainly, that are used in research settings, tests that look at ATP production and free radical production. Those typically are not available to individuals or practitioners in like a clinical or a doctor's office type of setting. There are some tests that can be markers of inflammation or even markers of free radical damage. And those are indirect ways of telling what's going on with the mitochondria. But again, it is more so from signs and symptoms.
Okay. And I think too, like the majority of our listeners here would be relating to those signs and symptoms of fatigue, low energy, maybe some minimal levels of inflammation. And also, I think what's really important is that we're talking about mitochondrial health in a preventative way. So we know that we need to sustain our mitochondrial function for as long as we possibly can to really improve our longevity and just improve our quality of life. So for our listeners right now who might be thinking, this isn't necessarily something that I can relate to because I don't have chronic illness or I don't have a chronic underlying disease or an autoimmune condition or something like that, I think we're still stay here because we're going to talk preventatively as well too. So in terms of daily habits that we have as a society, would you say that there are specific habits that actually weaken the mitochondrial function?
Oh, definitely. Yes. First thing that comes to mind is a sedentary lifestyle. So not doing any kind of exercise. That's counterintuitive. You may think, well, if you're not exercising, you don't need as much energy. So that maybe that's sparing your mitochondria. It's the opposite. When you're not exercising, you're completely sedentary, then actually that creates inflammation in the body. And that then can impair mitochondrial function. That's a big one. Next one would be nutrition. So a diet that's, say, high in refined carbohydrates. So you're taking in a lot of calories, and the mitochondria then have to process those calories. But those calories are typically bereft of the type of nutrients like B vitamins, like minerals, like antioxidants that are required to help them do their job, to protect them while they're working hard. So nutrition's a big one. A diet that, like I said, high in sugar, refined carbohydrates, high in unhealthy fats like omega-6, seed oils, processed vegetable oils, fried foods. As well, you want to look at, well, there's lots of different things. I would say those are the main things in terms of diet and exercise. But there's other things that will impact our mitochondrial function, stress being a big one.
Yeah, stress is huge. We know that plays a part in just about everything and can weaken every state of our being. So that's definitely big. Now, on the flip side of that, you mentioned, exercise is really important for mitochondrial support, proper nutrition. But is there anything that's specific in terms of those or something else that could be positively impacting our mitochondrial health and really supporting and maintaining that optimal functional level?
So when it comes to exercise, first of all, anything's better than nothing. Secondly, any kind of movement, walking, aerobic activities are helpful, specifically strength training. So when you do things like, muscle building exercises, whether it's lifting weights or just with your body, push-ups, sit-ups, anything that encourages your body to grow new muscles will help you make more mitochondria. And then ultimately that leads to having more energy. So strength training is really important in terms of exercise, stress, management, reduction, anything you can do to minimize, moderate, or manage stress will help ease the burden on your mitochondria. And there's some research to suggest that things like intermittent fasting can help, but that really, I would say, depends on the individual. It's not necessarily the right thing for everybody, but for the people for whom that works, then that can be a factor.
Okay. Now, in terms of nutrition, is there any like super food that is really supportive for the mitochondrial that people could start to increase more of their intake on, if there is any?
There are lots of them. That's another great thing, great news about this, is that, we often focus on what we shouldn't be eating, but what should we eat? Well, I've mentioned free radicals a few times. Those are the exhaust from the engine of the mitochondria. And so the mitochondria are kind of a double-edged sword. When you're creating cellular energy, there are electrons bouncing around. It's literally called the electron transport chain. And invariably, there will be electrons that will escape and get loose. Those are the free radicals. That can be quite harmful. So yes, we're producing energy, which is a good thing, but we're producing free radicals, which is not a good thing. So any kind of antioxidants, this is where we get into the colorful fruits and vegetables, herbs, spices, berries, all of these things. Typically color in the natural world signals some kind of antioxidant. And when it comes to antioxidants, the more the merrier. Get in as many as you can. And so, focusing on, again, those colorful foods, herbs and spices helps to get in more antioxidants.
Good. So those bright berries, peppers, red cabbage, anything that's like a nice, bright, vibrant color that's fresh, can give you that antioxidant support.
Yes, that's right. And then, of course, there are other targeted nutrients that help the mitochondria do their job better. Some are available in limited amounts, for example, from foods. Give you an example. L-carnitine is an amino acid. Carni, as the name implies, it comes from meat. And L-carnitine is a nutrient that will take fatty acids in your body, drive them into the mitochondria, and get them to be burned for energy. Sometimes we call it the fat bus. The fatty acids get on this vehicle, drives it into the mitochondria, burns it for energy. So that can improve mitochondrial energy output. It can help with muscle building. For example, one of my favorite studies of all time, done in Italy, including centenarians, people only 100 years of age and older. Two groups, both of them were walking every day. One group was taking L-carnitine, one group was taking a placebo. After 3 months, the group taking the L-carnitine supplement had more muscle mass, less fat mass, better energy, better mental energy, less fatigue. So it shows that you can literally make improvements, and significant ones, at any age and stage of life. But sometimes we need targeted amounts of nutrients, especially at that point, that we just, just can't get enough meat in your diet to get enough L-carnitine to have these benefits. But that's an example of a really targeted mitochondrial support nutrient, is L-carnitine, or sometimes referred to as acetyl L-carnitine. That form actually crosses into the brain and does all those great things in the brain.
Now, would you only get that from meat products, or can that come from any type of plant product as well?
L-carnitine, just in its nature, is available in high amounts, almost exclusively in meat. You don't find a lot of it in plant-based foods, but again, this is where supplements can come in handy.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk about supplements in just 1 second, but I have one other question in terms of lifestyle factors that could positively impact the mitochondrial. What about sleep? Like, does this have a big role in terms of the function of the mitochondria, or is it just kind of like base level?
Huge role. Oh my goodness, I really should have mentioned this before. I'm glad that you brought that up. Yes, a gigantic role, actually. Enough sleep quantity and quality on lots of different levels. First of all, when you're sleeping well, you're typically producing melatonin, which is actually a really powerful antioxidant. So that helps the mitochondria. It literally works in the mitochondria. During deep sleep, that's at the beginning of the night, you have this type of sleep. For the first 2 or 3 sleep cycles, you'll have a couple of hours of this deep non-dreaming sleep. We've recently learned that there is a special circulatory system in the brain that activates at this time of night only and flushes out the brain. It literally cleans your brain in this deep sleep. It's very recently recognized. So there's all kinds of cool things happening in sleep, and it definitely is getting good sleep is an important step to take for mitochondrial support. So one of the reasons why we feel refreshed after a good night's sleep is that we've essentially kind of recharged our mitochondria.
Good. That's so great. And I love that you mentioned the quality of your sleep, because we had such a large emphasis on the quantity being a certain amount of time, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours, which obviously is great in terms of allowing the body to rest and digest. But what we're seeing a lot is that the time frame, people still aren't getting the quality of sleep that they need. They're still not reaching, those REM cycles, getting that full recovery phase. So making sure you're getting enough hours, but also actually going through those sleep cycles to get that rest and digest and regenerative healing happening in the body as well.
Yes, I'm nodding vigorously here, enthusiastically. Yes, you're absolutely right. Yeah, I talked about deep sleep, but yeah, there's also the lighter sleep. That's the REM or dreaming sleep. That's super important for overall health, brain health, mitochondrial health. You're right. It's quantity and quality.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, let's go a little bit more to supplements, because I think that we live in a world where we always prioritize our food and our lifestyle habits, our, nutrition intake and getting things from our food and then getting enough sleep and all those things, which are fantastic. But I also am a firm believer in supplementation to help us reach a state of better in our bodies and better for preventatively with the support of supplements. And I know that can be controversial for some people, but they are there to really help us progress a little bit quicker along our journey and to better withstand all the other factors like stress, like not getting the optimal amount of sleep, like not getting the amount of nutrition from our food. Even when we're focusing on those things, they can be really, really helpful. So in terms of supplements for mitochondrial health, I know Natural Factors has released a couple products that we're going to talk a little bit more about. It's the Regenerlife and the NMN Surge, correct? Is that just the 2 mitochondrial ones?
Yes, those are the main targeted mitochondrial formulas that contain, again, specific nutrients that do specific things for the mitochondria, helping them produce more energy and less free radicals.
Now, these formulations are very unique. So I want to kind of break down both of them to learn a little bit more about the product, what is in it, and who would benefit from this. So let's start with the Regenerlife. I know it comes in a capsule and a powder. So tell me a little bit more about this product, what's in it, and who could benefit from this.
This is the Regenerlife mitochondrial energy formula. So the original combination of nutrients, again, designed to help your mitochondria work more efficiently, effectively, produce more power, less exhaust. And it's a combination of 6 nutrients, if my math is right here. It starts with the acetyl L-carnitine that I already mentioned, helps you burn fatty acids for energy, as well as coenzyme Q10. I think most people have heard of CoQ10, sometimes referred to as the cellular spark plug. So it works in the mitochondria to help pass electrons down the electron transport chain to create energy, but at the same time, really powerful antioxidant. So it will mop up any free radicals that it contributes to at the time to making. Then there's also L-glutathione in this combination. This is also a powerful antioxidant that is required by everybody, tends to decline with age, but specifically it declines more quickly in men than women. I really think about this as an important nutrient for men. They tend to lose their glutathione levels, and that can really contribute to a number of symptoms, especially anybody working in a toxic occupation. So working around chemicals, mining, painting, farming with pesticides, these kinds of things. As well, in the Regeneron Life, the original mitochondrial energy formula, there is superoxide dismutase, another powerful antioxidant from a melon extract, as well as Elevate TP. This is a combination of apple and peat extracts that have been shown to increase ATP output without increasing free radical output. So that's kind of the sweet spot that you want there. So this is a combination designed to be taken on a daily basis, typically once in the morning, or it can be taken before a workout. And within usually a week or two, people will typically notice improvements in energy. So it's for people who are looking to increase energy without stimulants, but literally by helping your mitochondria produce more energy.
Now, is there any issues with taking this, say, in the evening of like giving you, I know it's not like caffeine or stimulant boosting, but is there any recommendations as to not take it after a certain time that could affect your sleep per se?
Not necessarily. Some sensitive individuals may find that this gives them a bit of a boost, and it is better. They're better off to take it first thing in the day, in the morning, or again before a workout. But it really depends on the individual.
Okay. So it just sounds like a very well-rounded product that could be helping, with the function of the mitochondrial, the integrity of it, the health of it, and just really also burning, like you said, those fats that are in the body or that you're intaking and using that for fuel for the mitochondria, which is great. Now, for the other product, so this is NMN Surge, and this ingredient I don't know a whole lot about. So the main ingredient in here is the nicotinamide mononucleotide. So that is a mouthful. So
Yes.
what is this, and why is this important for mitochondrial health?
Well, you don't know much about it because it's new to the Canadian market as of December, actually. So this is brand new. This NMN, or nicotinamide mononucleotide, as the name implies, nicotinamide, it's actually a form of vitamin B3. And it is one that you will find in small amounts in certain foods, broccoli, edamame, cucumbers. So green foods have a little bit of this NMN in it. It's different from niacin, which is the form of vitamin B3 we mostly think of. It does different things, has different actions in the body. There's been a huge buzz around NMN, and it's really exciting that it's now available in Canada because some healthy aging, anti-aging, I hate the word anti-aging, but longevity medicine researchers, particularly down in Harvard, for example, David Sinclair from Harvard, has been talking about this for a number of years. So NMN it helps with mitochondrial energy production, which is great, but we just talked about a lot of nutrients that do that. NMN does something that so far none of the nutrients we've talked about can do, which is it elevates levels of a compound in our body that helps with cellular repair, DNA repair, essentially cellular housekeeping. This is called NAD. NAD levels we know tend to drop with age. By middle age, our NAD levels are half of what they were when we were young. And that means we can't repair our cells the way we once did. We can't do this cellular maintenance, cellular housekeeping. And so lowered NAD levels are really now thought to be a central factor that drives the aging process. By supplementing with NMN, studies have shown that this increases levels of NAD by 60% in just 4 weeks. So this really makes a huge difference, a real game changer for us to be able to start repairing our cells the way we did, when we were repairing them optimally. So this is the big excitement around NMN. Lots of fascinating research, like really impressive research, certainly in animal models, looking at like lifespan extension and all kinds of help with age-related changes. But there are clinical trials in humans, NMN supplementation showing improvements in a variety of aspects of, age-related cell maintenance, and it's really exciting.
That's amazing. And I think too, like I said it earlier in this episode, is thinking preventatively. And that is like the number one thing I think our listeners should be considering is how do you prevent disease from setting in? How do you change your lifestyle? How do you incorporate more targeted nutrients to get to that point of optimal health for longevity, but also just to improve your quality of life for however many years that would be. So I know some of our listeners are in their early 20s, maybe even younger. Some people from our universities and college are aware of our podcast and listen, but I would say, if you're under any type of stress, if you exercise regularly, because as much as that's great and really good for mitochondrial, it also does have a degrading effect on the body in terms of growing muscles and things like that. So repairing that, improving your sleep, all of these types of things that have an impact of your mitochondrial health, it's good to think preventatively. So between these two products, and for those listeners right now who are thinking, yes, I am struggling with fatigue, I am struggling with maybe a little bit of inflammation, or I'm just not feeling my absolute best self in terms of showing up every day energized, how would you recommend them incorporate one or two of these products into their daily routine, or changing their lifestyle habits? Like, where would they start?
So if you're not exercising, then starting with some kind of exercise is a place to start. If you're not sleeping well, then taking steps to improve sleep. And we could do a whole podcast, a whole show on that. What does it take to improve sleep quantity and quality? That's where to start. If your diet is not nutritious, or it's not helping you feel better, then cleaning that up is a place to start. And that at that point, then you can look at, once you've got all those things in place, supplementation, usually the Regeneralife mitochondrial energy formula, in terms of a foundational combination of targeted nutrients for mitochondrial support, is a place to start for everyone. Again, like you said, especially athletes, especially people under stress. And then after that, anybody 40 plus, the NMN surge, again, helps get the levels of the NAD back up so you can start repairing your cells the way you once did.
Amazing. That's very helpful. Thank you for clarifying that. Now, for our listeners, I'm going to leave those products that Kate mentioned in the description in our show notes on our Joanne's Place website. So if you're interested, go check that out there. And then also you can pop into one of our locations and learn a little bit more about those products. They will be set up on display, and one of our amazing staff would be happy to help and share their knowledge on this product as well too. So Kate, I want to thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast and sharing your wealth of information. It's been amazing as always. And I just want to thank you so much.
You're welcome. Take care.
You too. Chat soon. If you're still here, thank you so much for tuning in today's episode. If you want to learn more about the topics that we covered in today's episode, as well as the products, you've got two options. You can head over to our Joanne's Place website to review the show notes. We'll leave that in the description below, or you can pop into one of